today's video isn't going to be a song video. I'm trying out something a little different because, I don't know, I thought it would be fun to branch out and let you get to know me outside of just songs that I write. So for today's video, I am doing a top 10 favorite book because on my channel you can probably see that a lot of the things that I write about are books. On to the video. The first book might not be a very big surprise because I have written and covered quite a few songs from the Percy Jackson universe. My favorite book out of the Percy Jackson series is The Lightning Thief. I'm sorry, this is so shiny. There's a ring light in front of me. There we go. The Percy Jackson series. The entirety of the Percy Jackson series I think is amazing. The Lightning Thief is about Percy Jackson, an 11-year-old kid who learns that he is the son of a god, and the entire book takes place with Grover, Percy, and Annabeth, and they're on a quest to save Percy's mother because she got taken by a monster. I love all of the books, but this is the one that I had to pick because I reread it the most often. This is a book from the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Mayer, and it's the third book, but I'm going to tell you about the first book because I don't want to spoil the series for you if you haven't read it. The entire series features around retellings of classic fairy tales in a sci-fi format, except for it's not just retellings, it's a retelling that is mixed in with a bigger story arc, so there's a whole thing going on outside just the fairy tales. The first book in the series features Cinder, a cyborg who lives in New Beijing while there is a litymosis outbreak, which is a plague that is all over the world. She is a retelling of Cinderella, and the story opens with Prince Kai coming to her mechanic shop to get his android fixed. The entire series is fantastic, but Cress is my favorite. You get a sneak peek of that character in Cinder, but you don't truly meet her until a couple chapters later. But if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's one of my absolute favorites. Have read it. We should be friends. Third book in the collection, The Time Traveler's Wife. The Time Traveler's Wife is a story about a woman who is married to a time traveler. She's known him her entire life, but the book opens with her meeting him without him knowing who she is at all. The book follows them in a chronological story of their life, but then it also has flashbacks of him traveling to different places in time in her childhood to show the events that she knows and that he has to experience. So they have an interesting overlap. Their love story in it is also really nice. It's really sweet and you can tell how much they care about each other. She has to learn how to love someone who hasn't become the person she knows yet, and he has to learn how to love someone just from without knowing them at all. This next book I have read a total of 3 times over quarantine. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. The story features around a twin named Kath, and she has a sister named Ren. If you put their names together, it's Kath Ren. They are going to college the first time, and Ren doesn't want to room together, and Kath wants to, but they end up just not rooming together, so Kath gets stuck with a new roommate who she doesn't know. Kath is learning how to navigate college, and her weird roommate who has a boyfriend, but she's not really sure what they are. She's a fanfiction writer where basically in the universe they have something called Carry On, which is essentially Harry Potter. So she is a fanfiction writer for the Draco and Harry ship equivalent of that Carry On series. What's Simon Snow? It's called Simon Snow, it's not called Carry On. Fanfiction she's writing is called Carry On. But basically the story is a college romance of a girl trying to discover herself, how to live without being dependent on a twin, how to learn to feel secure in herself in a way that she can be open to people about her feelings. I've read it a lot this year, so that tells you it's good. You should read it, you should go for it. Go get the book, go read it, it'll be fun, it'll take you 3 hours. It's not a hard book to read, it's pretty easy. This next book is called Our Chemical Heart by Crystal Sutherland. I don't think I said that right. Basically, Our Chemical Heart's a teen romance with a twist. It follows Henry Page, who is heavily involved in the school newspaper, and he is to become editor as he is in his senior year. But in senior year, he learns he's going to have to share it with the new girl, Grace Towns, and he's kind of upset about this. Grace Towns wears men's clothing, they're baggy, she walks with a cane. She isn't the stereotypical, pretty girl, I guess. She's not like other girls. But he is really interested in her, but she does not want anything to do with him. She ignores him. She's like, I'm obviously giving you signs to back off. Eventually they end up growing closer. There's this really pretty scene where they break into this place that has a water thing, and they're just talking about stars, and she ends up looking at him and going, tell me something, write something right now. And he's like, well, I can't write without editing and putting it on paper. And she's like, you should work on that. And I don't know why, but that scene just sticks in my head really well. If you want to see a good twist on the typical love story trope that will make you cry, I think you should definitely try out Our Chemical Hearts. This also has a movie. The movie is not fantastic, it's on Amazon, but it captures all the main parts of the book. I just don't think, as with every single book, the movie or the TV show will never be as good. Now we're gonna move on to The Golden Compass. Ta-da! So, The Golden Compass is by Philip Pullman, and it follows Lyra, a little girl who is not a little girl, she's like 12, I think, 12 or 13. She lives in Oxford. So, in her universe, it's pretty similar to ours, except two differences. Magic exists, and they have something called a demon, which is basically the physical version of your soul. So their soul's on the outside of their bodies, and they take the form of an animal. The animal that your demon takes the form of is supposed to represent you as a person. I've always wondered what my demon would be like. I'm between a cat and a rabbit, which are very different, but I think they make sense. This story is about Lyra, as she has something called the alethiometer. It tells you what's going to happen or things that you need to do. It tells you the truth. It's like a lie detector test that is fully accurate, but it will trick you sometimes, because with all magic there's always a catch. But the main point of this first book is Lyra goes on a mission to the North Pole to save her best friend because the gobblers have gotten him. There's a lot of amazing imagery and character development that happens in these books. A very exploratory about religious topic, which if you're interested in that, it's really good. It makes you think a lot. Now we're gonna move on to this next one, and it's Winnie the Pooh. I feel like this is probably on a lot of people's lists, and I think everyone knows what Winnie the Pooh is about. I don't think I need to explain it. I remember listening to the Winnie the Pooh audiobook when I was little. Not before going to sleep, to fall asleep. Reading Winnie the Pooh is one of those experiences that I think a lot of people probably miss out on. It's considered a children's book, but it's so calming. You read it and you just feel like at peace. There was the whole cottagecore thing that happened on TikTok. Winnie the Pooh is totally cottagecore. One of my favorite parts about the Winnie the Pooh books is probably the illustration. They add just something totally different to the story that you would miss if you were listening to the audiobook. Children's books are allowed to be just happy and just explore life, and that's what's so nice about Winnie the Pooh. It's not an epic tale. It's not trying to be a bigger story. It's just telling you to appreciate little things in your existence. This next book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. It's about Charlie, a freshman in high school who has no friends. His best friend recently committed suicide. He's going into high school alone. He meets two seniors, Sam and Patrick. They are step-siblings, and they are wonderful. Charlie develops a little bit of a crush on Sam, and he soon becomes close friends with that entire friend group. He finds acceptance in a place that he didn't expect to. Throughout the story, there's also a constant theme of abuse and mistreatment in relationships, so if that is something that's uncomfortable to you, I might recommend not reading the book, but I do think that it does discuss important things regarding to that and showing you like things that should not be toterated in relationships and things that can happen. It shows the teenage experience in navigating the world around you when you're still trying to figure it out yourself. But if that's interesting to you, totally recommend it. This next book here is Tuck Everlasting. Tuck Everlasting, one of my favorites, another one that I cried to. A lot of these books have made me cry apparently, but Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt features Winifred, a young girl who discovers the Tuck family who have drunk from a spring that makes them immortal. And they tell Winifred about all their experiences and life stories. And the story shows Winifred having to make a hard decision of, is immortality what she wants, or is it better to choose a natural life? The book tackles topics surrounding death, the uncomfortable idea that if you're immortal, are you really alive? Now we're on to our last book, which I think leads in really seamlessly because it's also about immortality. I would like to open this up by saying, over quarantine, I have fallen into a lot of safety subjects, such as Percy Jackson, that fangirl book I was talking about earlier, and number 3, Twilight. I won't be talking about Twilight today though. Oh no, we're talking about Midnight Sun. If you don't know, Twilight is about a girl named Bella, who falls in love with Edward, who is a vampire who sparkles in the sun, and he is ridiculously tempted by the smell of her blood. And the entire Twilight series is from Bella's perspective, but this year we got Twilight from Edward's perspective, and let me tell you, I've grown to be obsessed with it. Is Edward a complete weirdo? Yes. Does Edward have boundary issues? Yes. Does Edward need to understand that he can't make decisions for Bella and her well-being? Also, yes. This book actually made me understand why Edward liked Bella so much, Because first of all, I think it's weird because he's like, I actually had to get to know a person because he didn't have to read their mind, can't read Bella's mind, and that's what makes him like her so much at first. And then he realizes how kind and giving she is as a person, so he's like, oh, I find you interesting. And he starts to court her like a 1900s fancy man. Fancy man? I don't know what the term to describe it is, but he's like, oh, I like her. It takes him till halfway through the book to like kiss or anything. But Midnight Sun is amazing because you get to see what a weirdo Edward is, number one, but number two, you get to see why Edward loves Bella so much, and it makes you appreciate Bella as a character so much more. You also get Colin backstory. I think this book is really good. I wish we were getting the entire series from Edward's perspective, but she doesn't want to write New Moon, and I think that she probably doesn't want to rewrite the entire series again. I can see why that'd be boring. Okay, that was all of the books that I was going to show you. I'll give you a quick rundown of all of them. We have The Lightning Thief from the Percy Jackson series. It's one of them, but it represents the whole series. We have Crest, but I talked about Cinder for the most part because I didn't want to spoil it for you guys. Third, we talked about The Golden Compass. Highly recommend that if you want to go for that. Another one we talked about was The Time Traveler's Wife. Amazing. Recommend it. Go for it. Fangirl, fiction writer who falls in love in college. Perks of Being Wallflower has all the teen angst and relatable content that you will ever need, where if you feel bad about yourself, you can feel bad about yourself with Charlie. Another one we talked about is Our Chemical Hearts, which is a twist on the classic love story. Winnie the Pooh. A classic. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves Little Pooh Bear and Piglet and Christopher Robin. Another one we talked about is Tuck Everlasting with its discussion on immortality. And finally, The Piece of Resistance, Midnight Sun, my guilty pleasure. If you are into Twilight and you haven't read this, go for it to get that moody teenage Edward boy content where he is a weirdo and he overthinks everything. This was my top 10 books that I enjoy reading and recommend to you guys if you would like to read them. If you have any books that you think I would like, in the comments, like, let me know. And tell me if you've read any of these books. I'm assuming you probably have. But I hope you liked today's video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Also, let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. I don't know, I'm kind of enjoying doing it. I just get to ramble at the camera about books I like and not have to bother my friends about it. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. I hope to see you next time. Stay safe, stay inside, and stay healthy, guys. Bye!